Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raider Report. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports. And coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into all of the questions from Raider Nation around the latest draft rumors, trade rumors, free agency rumors. Before I get into all of it, I know this. I know this show does a lot of amazing things. I also know the NFL is a crazy time. So if you could, join the fam here, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. If you thought free agency was a time, wait for the NFL draft. We're going to be live all 3 days, every single pick. It's going to be insane, and I don't think you're going to want to miss it. Let's go to the first one. We're rolling in here from Ben Bravo. Defensive lineman Moro Ujamo from Texas, trade from 38 to 50-ish. I'll be real with you. That's way too high for me. I see some people that are a lot higher on him than me personally. He's not in my top, I'd say, top 10 off the top of my head here for defensive tackle, so I'm not taking him in round 2 or even round 3 at this point. Let's go to J. Crew. How do you feel about Malik Cunningham, quarterback from Louisville? He's a lot lower on my rankings list because, to me, when I look at the Josh McDaniels offense with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's not going to look the same. I'm not just saying this because they went to the same college at Louisville, but if the Raiders were to make a move for Lamar Jackson, right, and your offense is around some mobile quarterback, the two lower-tier QBs that I would look up to be a backup to Lamar would be Malik Cunningham or DTR from UCLA. Let's go to Devin James. Thoughts on drafting Siaka Ika in the third round, the defensive tackle from Baylor. If I butchered his name, I'm sorry. I always try to get it right. He's a big-time interior defensive lineman. He's right now my 5th ranked DT on the list. But I will admit, after my top 4, which is Mozzie Smith, Kalijah Cansey, Jalen Carter, and then I'm missing a name in there. Regardless, though, I can't think of it off the top of my head. He's in my top 5. Who?
Proceed.
Brian Bresee. Thanks, Chugs. So he is a tier down, and he would be a round 3 prospect, and I don't know if he's going to be available at pick number 70 because defensive tackle, for how expensive they went in free agency, I do think there's going to be a lot of teams out there that look at that position, especially in the draft. Let's go here to Alan Raider. Mitch, when you had your dad on your birthday show and you were worried about him, how was he that night? Hope you and your dad had a great time together. I always worry about him. You know, like I'm always going to worry about my parents, though. However, we had a hell of a night. He took a power nap when we got home. And then that night, I did not know it, but Alex surprised me with my 2 best friends, my college best friend, my best friend from home. We went out. We had a hell of a night. We had a hell of a weekend. He did a good job for being up there in age a little bit. He did a good job for hanging on. But, Alan, I appreciate that one, man. Let's go to Seabass. Thoughts on Young going to dinner with the staff? It's smart. If you're the Raiders, you need to do your homework on every single quarterback prospect, whether or not you think that there's a chance that they could fall to you, or if you're going to trade up or not. If I'm the Raiders and I want to stockpile draft picks, I want all 31 NFL teams to think that there is a possibility that I could trade up, or that if he's available, that I have a chance to take him. So for that reason, you want to get to know your quarterback prospects. And I said it before, the only 2 QBs that I believe the Raiders would actually trade up for, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. So I like it from multiple different reasons. Let's go to Paul R. Romero. Do you think the Raiders would trade up for Bryce Young? Perfect. If he's available at number 3, I do think it would end up happening. And if we go back and we look at some past moves that some other teams have made, and I will admit, if the Raiders were to make a trade, right? If Bryce Young falls down to 3, that means I think Anthony Richardson or Will Levis is off the board. I definitely think C.J. Stroud's off the board. And if Stroud's there at 3, that ultimately means that there's going to be a lot of other teams potentially trying to trade up. So that would also say that there's going to be a bidding war. If the Indianapolis Colts are at 4 and the Raiders are at 7 and you want to jump Indianapolis to get to number 3, you're going to have to give up a lot of picks. So what's kind of funny here is Chugs and I were talking about this before. So, Chugs, if you go back and you look at some old graphics that you and I made, we actually have a trade around this exact scenario where if he were to fall down to pick number 3, we said this is what it could potentially cost. Las Vegas Raiders get the number 3 pick. Arizona Cardinals, this is what again, the scenario is Bryce Young falls down to 3. That means the price tag goes up. To me, this is what could potentially you could offer. Arizona Cardinals, they get your first and your second round pick this year. You get your first round pick next year, and then you also throw in Hunter Renfrow. What do you think of that deal? Would you do it? You're like, man, that's too much. If you think that's too much, then you don't want to trade up and get Bryce Young. But hey, I want to know from all y'all down in the comment section right now, would you make this trade? Type trade, or I want you to type for pass. Remember, the scenario on screen is Bryce Young slides all the way down to the number 3 pick, and he's on the board. Let's go to one of our brand new supporters here on the show, Mr. R. Rafterman, where realistically, I feel like if Trivan hopped into a time portal and went 20 years in the future, this might just be Trivan. Got to meet with buddies tonight, so not going to be on. Just win, baby. And Raiders! Everybody spam Rafterman in the comments. A brand new watcher, a brand new supporter, and it sounds like he likes to get down with the nation. Let's go to Kale Loza. All I got to say is just win, baby. Raiders forever and ever. The reason why there's only one nation, the reason why we bleed silver and black is because of people like Rafterman, Kale, who bleed that commitment, man. Let's go to Mr. Papaya, man. Jalen Carter or Chris Gonzalez at 7. I will go with Chris Gonzalez at 7, which is a lot different than what I would have said 2 months ago. Carter scares the hell out of me. Chris Gonzalez has the potential to be the best cornerback in the National Football League. He's that good. Also, when you look at the moves that the Raiders have made on the defensive side of the football, they've gone after a lot of undersized corners, right? Duke Shelley, 5'9". David Long Jr., he's 5'11". So there's still a need there for a bigger outside corner, and Chris Gonzalez would absolutely fill that void. If you guys don't already know, if you're trying to live a happy, healthier life, I encourage you to go check out our sponsor today. It is Athletic Greens, and you can go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I think you would really like it. So, I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. Get comprehensive, convenient daily nutrition at athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted immune system support and wanted a supplement that tastes great. I take AG1 in the morning, and it makes me feel ready to take on my day. My grandparents always told me that the early bird gets the worm. So AG1, it gives me that motivation to get as many worms as possible every single day. AG1 really helps me getting my day started, getting out of bed, especially after some of our Friday happy hour shows. It's, well, difficult. And I'm a person who likes and needs a routine. AG1 helps me stick to my healthy routine, which is waking up early. I take my AG1. I take my dog Chuck for a walk. Then I'll try to hit the gym before work. Covering my nutritional basis for the day, literally, could it be easier, which is why I trust Athletic Greens. I just mix 1 small scoop of AG1 with water and drink it first thing in the morning. Done! I always like it because it costs less than $3 per day. That's pretty good if you ask me. It's a really effective daily habit with the highest quality sourced ingredients. It is a just-win baby. If a comprehensive solution is what you need for your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. So go to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. That's athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. Link's going to be available for you guys in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to M-Tune. We need defensive line help. Are there any free agents left that we could sign? There's still plenty of free agents that the Raiders could sign. It's just a matter of how much money do they want to be able to spend at the DT position. The Raiders did sign a defensive tackle on Friday, John Tank Jenkins, and, I got to give my flowers to Graf. He was on this show on Wednesday live with Chugs and I, and he said, hey, heard from a source, the Raiders could end up signing Jenkins if he doesn't retire. He ends up signing with the Raiders on Friday. The number one defensive tackle that I would look at right now for the Raiders that could be a good fit, Matt Iondas. Don't know if it ends up going down, but yes, there are still plenty of defensive tackles available, plenty of defensive players available. Let's go to Kevin Rogers. Safe offense and defensive pick at number 7. Safest pick at 7 for offense, I'd go with Peter Skoronski, throw him in at guard. And then defensive pick, the safest guy, realistically, at number 7, Chris Gonzalez. Don't think Will Anderson falls down to number 7. But those would be. I also think Tyree Wilson's going to be a hell of an edge rusher. It's just not that big of a need for the Raiders. Let's go to Joseph. What do you think? Andre Carter from Army, really, really good athlete. And I wish I could have watched more film on him. I haven't watched as much film at that position for the simple fact of, not that it's not a need. You always need to be able to get after the quarterback, but edge rusher to me has been a little bit lower on my list. He is a good player. He is a good athlete, very well disciplined, obviously being at Army. And if he falls down the board, which I don't think ends up happening, I do think the Raiders could show some interest. Let's go to J-Mo H, a.k.a. Devil J. Paris Johnson at 7. Otherwise, I reckon we get more picks. I'll be real with you. If the Raiders ended up taking an offensive tackle at number 7, I would be unbelievably pissed off. There's no reason to take an offensive tackle at 7. You have Colt Miller at left tackle. You have Jermaine Illuminor, who's going to be your starting right tackle. So I don't necessarily know where the fit is. If they were to take Paris Johnson at 7, I'd be really ticked off. Let's go to Raiders 1960. I heard Josh Jacobs jerseys are on sale. Could they trade him too? I don't think they're going to move on from Jacobs. I know there's a lot of drama right now with some of the stuff he's been posting on social media, right? But we don't even know if that's necessarily around the Raiders. The biggest reason why I would say, hey, maybe Jacobs jerseys are on sale, maybe change his number to 8, right? Like, that was the story that came out last year. Josh flirted with the idea of changing his number to go to number 8, his college number. So if I were to say anything, maybe it's that. I don't think the Raiders are going to end up moving on from Jacobs. However, what do y'all think? Will Josh Jacobs play this season with the Raiders? Give me a Y for yes, give me an N for no. The only way that I say no is if he's like, I'm not playing underneath the franchise tag. Either give me a contract extension or trade me. And if I was the Raiders, I would call him out on that bluff, because if you don't play under the tag, you don't get paid. And if you're a running back, you pull the whole Le'Veon Bell thing, you go a whole entire season without playing, yeah, there's going to be teams out there that look at what Jacobs once previously did, but he's not going to get nearly as much money. I would call the bluff. DJ Raider Strug, how do you feel about our depth in the secondary? It's getting there. We're still a lot of pieces away from improving our defense. I would still say that our defense is weaker this year than what it was last year, which is going to scare the hell out of a lot of people. But the one positive note that I've been trying to flip on people is when you have all these players trying to fit in the Patrick Graham scheme, it's what the Raiders need, because this Raiders defense has had Paul Gunther guys, Gus Bradley guys, Patrick Graham guys, all jammed into one defense. For the first time in a long time, I think what this Raiders team is doing, building in the draft, building some certain players that fit their personal mold, that have played in past systems, that have that connection, they're trying to build a cohesive unit on defense, which is really, really important, because you got to know your assignments. Let's go to the Magosho 11. D-Hop said if he gets traded, he's willing to restructure his contract for the team, knowing that would then mind still potentially trading for him. I mean, it comes down to money with me for Hopkins. If you're telling me Hopkins is willing to renegotiate that contract and he's willing to be somewhere around, I don't know, 10, 11, Hunter Renfrow for me is making $12, $13 million a year. If I can get DeAndre Hopkins at around $13 million per year, where if I said, hey, I'm going to trade away Hunter Renfrow, I save about $11.6 million, use that money to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, and all you got to do is give up a 5th and a 6th round pick like it cost Brandon Cooks, sign me up every single day of the week. Let's go to Christopher McGuire. What linebacker prospect is this year's draft fits Patrick Graham's system in the first 3 rounds? So usually I'm not too big on drafting linebackers early because I do think it's the easiest position to be able to replace. My top 2 linebackers that would fit in any single scheme out there, Jack Campbell from Iowa, and then Drew Sanders from Arkansas. If you're able to get one of those top 2 dudes, you'd probably have to take within the top. You probably got to take them at 38. At least that's where I think they go off the board. That's where I'm looking at. Let's go to Willie from Super Thanks. Thanks for all you do for Raider Nation. I do what I do because I know we have amazing fans. I know what we do here is sometimes unorthodox. It's a little bit wild, but we have a good time. If you don't know what Super Thanks is, it's a feature on YouTube where you can send in, it's basically a super chat on non-live videos to say, hey, thanks for what you do. If you do that, just like super chats, we will put you up on screen. If I missed your question, always remember you guys can hit me up on social media and all that kind of good stuff. I will get to this one from R. Martin. Jalen Carter, edge rusher Tyree Wilson, Will Levis look solid today. I know Will Levis had his pro day today. Did Jalen Carter have another practice? Like, I don't know the whole Jalen Carter thing, so I knew Will Levis had his day. I'm going to watch my own tape because pro days, everybody looks great. That's what pro days are for. Pro days are for college to say, hey, look how great this guy is, because if he gets drafted, it makes the college look better. I'll admit, I look at the NFL Combine. I look at tape, like real-life tape here. NFL Scouting Combine here. Pro days all the way down there. Now, if you haven't already, interact with me on social media. Y'all know where to find me. Hit me up over on Locals as well. Appreciate everyone who tuned in to today's live show, to today's mailbag, and hopefully when you watch this, you're going to be having a hell of a weekend.